I would call this the 4-part survival guide for an employee. Every employee at all times should have all 4 of what I'm about to share with you. And 3 and 4, we're actually going to cover today in the teaching parts. So, number 1, each one of you should have some kind of criteria list. What is it that is the best operating environment that I could possibly be in? Like, what is my ideal scenario, situation, working environment, literally and figuratively, mentally and physically? How do I operate at my best? What are all the kind of the conditions that are around me that enable me to do that? And you might hear me call this my criteria matrix, because that's a formal tool I put together for members of my job search coaching program, where I have a list of a lot of these requirements that gives them a huge jump start to creating this. You might also hear me refer to this as the happiness factors or your needs. I have some free stuff in the public domain that gives you a little bit of a head start in pulling this stuff together. But do you have this? This is the self-awareness evaluation that says, if I know myself well and I can get that down on paper, and I'm evaluating employers I might want to work for or roles I might want to take within my organization, am I in order? Okay, so that's the first one. And by the way, for anybody who's actually in the Zebra Code Book Club, that's free to join. On April 1st, I'm releasing a self-awareness video to everybody in the private community. It's free to join. So if you're not sure how to do that, we can talk about that later. But this is number 1. Number 2, to no one's surprise, is you all probably have one of these or are frantically pulling one together, your marketing document, better known as your resume. And so in this instance, I want you to think about, well, I'm always looking for the ways I could market myself and convey how I can help employers, ways to attract, whether it's recruiters, hiring officials, whoever it might be, and understanding based on where you've been, what it is that you're going to offer, and you should have a resume to do that. And I'm guessing that 99% of you who are watching me, you actually have one of these. Right. But if you have one of these without understanding the operating environment that suits you best, just because you can get a job, or just because you can do a job, or just because you think you want the job, doesn't make it so. Doesn't always mean you're going to be successful. Doesn't mean you're going to be hired. It doesn't mean if you're hired that you're going to thrive. So these kinds of things need to work in tandem. And one of the other things that really helps you fill this thing out effectively is the Career Achievements Journal, or what I might refer to as a career diary. And this is going to be a good portion of what we're going to be talking about today. What goes into this diary that should be a running total of everything that I'm doing, but not really just everything that I should be doing. What is it that I've done? What was the project? What were the benefits? What actually transpired? What did I learn? How did my company improve? What were the lessons learned? What are the ongoing benefits for something that I did? So here's a big issue for a lot of you. What happens is you fill item number 2 out, right? You do this struggling. Andy, I can't remember what happened. Andy, I don't know the metrics. Andy, I can't remember. That was 3 years ago. It was 30 years ago. It was whatever, right? You scramble, you put this together, you start to job search, then you take a job, then you work there for a few years, and then all of a sudden, what? You got to revisit item number 2 again. Well, what happens? Well, if you had one of these going with you so that you could have remembered the details from 300 or 3,000 days ago, it would be a lot easier for you to be able to, market yourself going forward, but what else? When you have a running list of what you've done and you've really thought about the impact that has occurred at the moment that you do it in the short term, as well as all the ongoing effects, but then think about when you're going to have to relive that story for someone. You could be reliving that story at your promotion review. You could be reliving that story at your performance review. You could be reliving that story in a job interview, whether that's internal or external. and you don't recollect. This is your savior in being able to recollect, whether you're doing it for internal purposes or external purposes. Don't rely on your memory, and don't assume you're going to be able to go back and think this up. This is an amazing, amazing tool. I give this away free. Maybe Kara could drop it in the chat, and you can get an idea of what it is. And actually, in the teaching package that I'm going to be going into here in a wee bit, we're going to walk through some of this. But what this is going to enable you to do is, don't think for 1 second, do not think for 1 second that you will remember this stuff. But even worse, even if you could remember this stuff, when you sit down with your with your boss or even in a job interview going forward, it's going to be very, very difficult for your boss or your management team to truly understand the ripple effect of all the benefits that were created or are continuing as a result of something you did that was a snapshot in time activity. So, I did a workshop last year, and at some point this year, I might replay that workshop. But at the moment when I did the workshop, a lot of you on your resume analogously would say something like ran the workshop, right? Taught somebody something or something like that. But now you think about when I'm capturing what's happening, because I have a career achievements journal too. Actually, I have multiple career achievements journals. When I look at a workshop that I create, it's the preparation of the workshop, it's the evaluation and the research that goes into putting a good one together. Then it's the putting it together, the marketing, the selling, the delivering of the workshop, the actual execution itself, and then hopefully all the people that are watching it are now better educated, and they go on and they take those lessons and they go out into the world and they apply them. Then from a business standpoint, maybe some people see that as a way of my teaching style, and they want to enroll in one of my premium programs. There's benefits there. And then the ongoing ROI, maybe I might want to sell that. Ongoing ROI, maybe for a year, maybe 4 years. Maybe I replay that workshop for free, right? The benefits that keep rolling on. These are rippling effects. Without you thinking about this and capturing this and truly documenting it as well as communicating it, do not think for 1 second that your boss is going to remember all of this or think as broadly. That doesn't make them bad people. It makes them busy, right? They've got their own stuff that they're worried about. So this is something that everybody needs. It's an ongoing journal of all of your accomplishments in a format where you're collecting the right kind of detail. And then what that also feeds is item number 4, which is going to be the lion's share of what we're going to be talking about today, is your employee value proposition. Now, I want to make sure you understand what I mean by employee value proposition. I am not talking about, from an employer's standpoint, your employee value proposition as in what you offer your employees, because that's a thing and it will go by this name. I'm talking about you as an employee. What is it that I'm offering my employer, and how is it that I've created value, and how can I get at my employer to look at me in the right light, with the right perspective? And if nothing else, how can I, as an employee, make sure I would understand my value to anybody else, whether that's another group in my company or whether it's a company externally. So part 1 of this is, just to recap it very quickly, is I want to make sure that you have some self-awareness exercise that you've gone through to truly understand who you are and the environment that is effective for you. People who are self-aware have high job satisfaction because they put themselves in the right kind of environments. Self-aware, internally self-aware people have very high job satisfaction, but they also have very high goal attainment because they're continually putting themselves in the right environments and setting the right goals that align to who they are because they are internally self-aware. The exact opposite is true. People who are not internally self-aware also often don't have high job satisfaction and don't achieve goals. If you want more on this, join the Zebra Club, because I'm releasing that one April 1st if you want more on this. Second thing is, make sure you got your resume in order. I think you get the point there. A career achievements journal is a running diary of me. A running diary of me with particular pieces of information, all the key components that tell a great story and give someone else who didn't live it the right perspective of the impact you've had. And then fourth, the employee value proposition. So when I need to make an argument for what I'm worth, I have the data. We're now going to transition into the teaching part of this employee value prop. Are you positioned to make the right kind of arguments? So as a segue, what we're going to get into right now is it's not all of it, but it's about 48 minutes of a session that I had last October in 2023 with members of my leadership coaching program. Toward the end of the year, or usually in Q4 every year in my leadership program, I have some kind of session on negotiation, performance review, value, and these kind of things. This happened to be one I did last year in October as I was trying to get them ready for their end of year reviews. I wanted to do it in October so I could give them some time to pull this together. So I'm sharing this with you today. I hope you enjoy it. Today we're going to be talking about you as an employee. How do you really have a true understanding of your value? And what does it mean for you to be part of the equation? And this just kind of popped into my head with that movie, It's a Wonderful Life kind of thing. You know, if you weren't there, what wouldn't be happening, right? Like Jimmy Stewart. But I've talked to you in the past. We had a session on becoming a high performer. We had a session about mastering your craft, basically making you better at what you do. We also had a session on performance reviews and how to conduct them. We also had a session on negotiating your pay raise. I keep looking at the library and trying to figure out different ways to tell you to do similar things, but all of it aimed at you living your best life, building your best career, but also being appreciated as much as you can and contributing as much as you can. And today it's part collection, it's part reflection, it's part assessment, it's part really thinking about what's happening, it's capturing, and all of the things that go along with you being able to have a complete handle on the impact you're making. Okay, who's stoked about this session? Give me I'm stoked in the chat. And Kara, let's run the poll after I do the teaching. Okay, let's do the poll after. Okay, I actually have a surprisingly long list of cards today. I was writing these out this morning. That's my normal practice. I don't write these out a week ahead because I like the magic to come right when the pressure's on, right? And we're going to turn the camera on. Okay, LKG, you're stoked. Michael Moore, great to see you. You're stoked. Mark McKinsey, stoked. Stephen Green, you're always stoked. Loretto, Manisha, Dr. Manisha, what's up? Okay, so I tried to break this down into the areas that I think matter. And they matter in terms of you being able to communicate how you're contributing value to someone, to your boss, to your management team, but also for yourself. And I want to walk you through five areas. If maybe you've seen some social media messages from me throughout the week or whatever, and I've been kind of circulating these 5 pillars that are related to really putting together what I think would be a great kind of comprehensive plan for yourself. And the first one is, and much like you would fill out on your resume, but in the past, what has happened and what are the benefits that I'm creating now and the things that I'm doing now that will continue to give us ROI in the future, right? If I set up a system that I can continue to use in the future, next month, next quarter, next year, and so on, I'm creating return on investment in the future because I have a more streamlined way to do it. Or maybe they're exponentially paying dividends. Or maybe I secured a customer today that continues to be a customer next year, kind of thing. And when you look at the benefits that you truly achieve as a result of a project that you've done, any project. It could be a one-day project, it could be a one-week project, it could be a year-long project. But when you start to think in those terms, there are a lot of pieces of information that go along with helping you paint a great picture about what's truly transpired, because it isn't just about you creating ROI for your company, right? That's benefit. Maybe it's lower cost, or it's more revenue, or it's some kind of profit related success factor. But there's a lot more that goes into you doing what you do. And you might hear me say this, and I say this often: if you're going to do something, anything, work on a project, just have any experience, you don't just want to have the experience, you want to gain the benefits of having gone through the experience. And I think what a lot of people do is they don't actually recognize or register what's happening at the time it's happening. And they also, and even if they do, they don't truly look back and reflect on it. So you might have come across my career achievements journal, where I've identified 14 key pieces of information that I think help you paint a great picture of what has transpired in the past. And the other thing that I want you to think about here when you're collecting stuff from the past, and we're going through this process today with multiple goals. We want to be able to collect information so that we can make an argument of what we're worth, or what value we contributed, should we need to make that. But the other thing that it'll do is it will also help you build your confidence by assessing what's transpired and really taking the time to think through how you've changed, how your company's changed, and so on. So I want to go through these 14 things. If you happen to have my career achievements journal, this is very, very similar, if not the same as that. I've also put this in your workbook, but I want to go through this, and I want you to imagine I'm going through my everyday life, my job, cranking out the widgets, or providing the service, or whatever it is that I do. These are the things that I want you to capture, and I want to talk about why I want you to capture them. So the first thing is, well, what's the project? So for each project that you have, so like I'm working on, this session could be a project, right? Teach them how to create an employee value prop. It could be my entire leadership program for the year, for the multiple years. It could be a workshop event I have, or something like that. For you, it might be an implementation. It might be just streamlining the way your team does something. The project is however you define it. And then there are statistics that go along with the project. And I'm talking about statistics in terms of, what's the color? Like, what's happening? Is it a 10-week project? Does it have 10 people involved? Am I creating something that's affecting 10 people? Am I implementing 3 systems? How many customers might buy this product? Who are the players that are involved? Who are the vendors I'm working with? Everything that just tells a story about what it is that you're doing with that project from a quantification standpoint, to really try to think through what's actually happening. So I'm not talking about benefits here. I'm talking about just what's going on. How big is it? How many people are you managing? How many people are you influencing? How many people are you working with? Who are they? What about them? Kind of thing. What's the business problem? So what are you really, what goal are you shooting for, and what problem are you trying to address? We're trying to open up sales in a new country. We're trying to launch a new product that we're going to sell. We're trying to increase the marketing, the lead traffic, and so on. Whatever it is, what's the actual business problem? Be really clear, because when you are articulating your value, there needs to be context related to the size of the goal and the size of the problems that you're overcoming. The more difficult the problems, the more complex the problem, the more valuable you become and your experience becomes. Who are the players? Do you have stakeholders, steering committees? Do you have vendors, partners, internal people, boards of directors? Who's actually involved with you on this project? And then what's the solution that you are that you're going to implement? Did you streamline a business process? Did you change a workflow? Did you implement a system? Whatever it is, what was your solution? What was the result? What was the outcome? Did you implement a new system for your call center reps so that they could decrease call times, handle them faster, maybe create space in their call to upsell? What was it, right? What happened? Did you improve customer retention? Anything like that, but the hardcore results, and then what the benefits were. So what the actual impact was, to the extent that you can quantify them or at least note intangibly what happened. What challenges did you overcome? So there's problems I'm trying to address and overcome, but there could have been challenges along the way that I had to overcome them. So, one of the problems was that we didn't have any experience marketing in this country. We're going to use this kind of system that we're going to put in place. The goal is to do this and break into the country. The business problem I'm addressing is streamlining this, that, and the other thing by implementing a system. Great. But the challenges that we encountered along the way was as we were going through the process and we had our target date and everything was on schedule, but the vendor we were relying on didn't deliver what we expected. That's a challenge. That basically is a bump in the road. That's what I'm talking about here. This is different than the problems. So you always want to recognize, well, what did you actually have to overcome? How quickly did you do it? Right? Kind of thing. And then the next thing, so I guess 9, 10, and 11, and 12 is how did you overcome the challenges? Looking back in hindsight, what would you have done differently knowing what you know now? Is different than the lessons that you learned. Okay, this is, I would have gone a different direction. I would not have hired that marketing agency to run my Facebook ads. That's hindsight. I wouldn't do that. What lessons did I learn? I learned how to do this, that, and the other thing of marketing those messages. The lessons that I learned is it's better to target blah, blah, blah. Instead of, right? In hindsight, I wouldn't have done that is different than what did you learn, okay? Your development, how did you personally grow? Hindsight and lessons related to the project, the problem that you're addressing. Your personal development, how have you changed? If this is empty, I'm going to hit you over the head. I just don't know any other way to say that because later today, I will have developed from who I was yesterday. So if I'm going through a massive project, product build, launch, effort, I don't care what it is, I'm personally developing. And the reason, if any of you out there do not think that you're developing, I'm going to tell you you are. What you're not doing is what? Taking time to reflect about how you grew and asking yourself these questions. Hang on, I got 2 more. How did the company develop? And what were the overall victories that you would consider? Victory could be a small thing. Like the project was launched and we realized these benefits and blah, blah, blah. The victory could be, that was the first time I ever did that, right? I launched a product in 2016. The victory was, I will never forget the woman's name who was the first person that bought a product from me. Kind of thing. It's a victory. Right? Kind of thing. And victories could be anything. This could be anything. But this is, you want to make sure you catch these. So what you're doing is this exercise. I mean, I just love this exercise. I wrote this out because I want to make sure that you see this. If you go through this exercise, not only are you collecting all that stuff that absolutely no one but you, scratch that. No one will remember all of those things, and no one will stop for a second to think about all those things. You're going to have to remind them. And you forget those things because what? You don't take the time to document this stuff. Right? So the reflection is so important. So it'll help your memory. It gives you a chance to reflect. Again, what's my line? I don't care how successful you are. You will never feel successful. No matter who you are, you will never feel successful if you don't reflect. You got to pause and think about what transpired so that you can soak this up. And the other thing that this will do, this bottom thing about psyche and confidence, is it's going to build your confidence because you're going to look back and be like, dang, I accomplished all that. This whole thing, what I just told you over the last, 10 minutes, is what shoots through my head every Thursday in a live office hours when some job seeker says to me, how do I articulate a project that failed? I don't know, you got 12 of the 14 things that you could think about how you benefited personally. And your company might have benefited even from the failure. What did you learn? Who are you now? So from your past, this is the stuff. I mean, your book should be this thick throughout the year, especially some of you that work multiple projects, that manage multiple units, that work with lots and lots of people. So think about in the past, what happened? What happened in all its glory? I gave you the 14 points. If you have my Career Achievements Journal, that's effectively it. This workbook I'm going to give you, the usual monthly workbook, that's it. It's inside there. Okay, so I love this number. I love this number 1 questions. Alex, welcome aboard. What if you worked hard but didn't actually succeed? For example, I worked in sales and we worked hard but didn't close a lot of deals. Talk about what you are, not what you're not. You closed some deals. What can you wring out? What can you wring out from the deals you closed? And as a total aside to you and anybody, when you have a problem, the first place you look is what worked. Not how do I fix this broken thing? Not even how did it break, right? If you're in a situation like you are, right? If you look at you could look at deals that you didn't win and assess the rationale. You should have data for that, right? Did the company hire somebody else? Did they give you any feedback? Did they balk, right? Did you go into a situation, the customer didn't buy something, they didn't buy from anybody, that's called a balk. And so wait, what did you learn? You lost time because you invested it. That's one way to look at it, not the way I would look at it. But with the time I invested, what did I learn? Did I take a bullet early on and I just didn't know to fall down and die, right? Somewhere along the way that happened, meaning was this not a great prospect? Should we not have been investing a lot of time? Sometimes you did everything right and the situation just didn't turn out the way you thought. This is the stuff you got to think through. This is why every deal you won and didn't win should have a detox meeting that assesses what transpired. And then Stephen Green, best way to discern what was a team accomplishment versus an individual accomplishment, I leave that to you. This here, this set of stuff is not an exact science. I'm just saying to you, you could look at, was it my idea and somebody else carried it out? That's a victory for you and a victory for the team, right? We don't have to split hairs, but at the end of the day, you will know how to use this information when you need to. And this is also part of prepping for your performance review, but this is a diary, a portion of something that all of you should have, just like you carry a resume. Okay, so that's the past. Now, the future is, okay, I'm doing my work, I accomplished a bunch of stuff. And let's for illustrative purposes, and it doesn't have to be this exactly, but let's just say year over year, you're going through your annual performance review and you're about to go, it's December, you're about to go into January, or it's Q1 and you're about to go into Q2, or it's the semi-annual review and you're about to go into the back half of the year. I don't really care. Basically, when you think about the future, part of your value is what's going to happen as a result of you being here in the future. And so I break this down in 3 or so ways. And the way I like to think about this one is, if I was to continue in my same capacity, what additional benefits could I help the company create by continuing to do what I do? So think about future value. What are the projected benefits and contributions? And then let's look at them in 3 capacities. If I continued on my current trajectory and I have the same set of responsibilities, I'm doing the exact same thing I did yesterday. I'm doing that tomorrow. It's December 31st. When I come back January 2nd or whatever date I come back, I'm doing the same dang thing. Okay, so now, how long have you been doing that thing? Right? If it's been a year, you should be pretty dang faster. If you were a salesperson, and Alex said deals. If I was able to make 10 cold calls in a day, could I make 20? Okay, if I made one deal an hour, can I make 2? Am I right? If I just continued on my current trajectory, am I better at something? If I'm cranking out the widgets, can I crank out more of them? If I can only get 3 out in a day, can I now get 4 because I'm continuing with my same set of responsibilities of which I should be wholly proficient or way better at? So what you want to do is you want to look at this, and I know this happens to a lot of salespeople, okay? It happens to a lot of salespeople. What happens, so all salespeople, go ahead, let's chuckle together. It was so ridiculous. You sold $1 million this year. Great. Your reward is next year, your quote is $1.5 million. Right? Now, that could be, wait, you are better and you should, right, be able to do that. Or it could just be a company saying, okay, we need to grow, which is not a good way to reset quotas year over year. But the point is that you should be better. Now, if you continue on your current trajectory, what this might do is what? You become so proficient at your job that you're creating space in your schedule to what? Maybe free up to help others do their job, or which is taking on additional responsibilities, whether formal or informal. But if I had to continue, what additional value could I create? You got to think hard about this, okay? It's really important. It's only one element. But some people are going to pick up additional responsibilities, okay? So if I'm in a similar capacity, but maybe I talk about some additional business processes, additional business functions, additional responsibilities. Maybe I'm continuing to manage the central region and these accounts, but I'm picking up additional staff, or I'm picking up an additional unit, or I'm picking up an additional product line or something that we're selling. So are there additions that, and here again, the nomenclature I'm giving you here, I don't want to split hairs over it. You can call it additional responsibilities, you call it new functions, is something different. As far as I'm generally in the same capacity, but I'm now starting to inherit new things. How many people, I'm guessing, if I polled you, which we're not going to do, on this question, or you could raise your hand in the chat, but have you ever gotten additional responsibilities without actually getting a pay increase or a promotion? Can I get a nod? Yep, I can get a nod. Okay, it's probably like 100%. And on the one hand, it kind of should work that way, right? Like, I don't want to wait till your promotion period to give you additional responsibilities. I just have no control. It's August, and I have no control to reset your salary until January. That's fine, right? Okay, fine. I'd rather have the 5 months of experience of the higher level responsibilities, me personally. So just think about this. This is picking up some new things, or it could be new projects or just new things. It could be, so for example, maybe I'm a project manager and I implemented a small scale system. And now I have more experience and I'm still a project manager, but they're gonna give me a larger team, a larger budget to implement a larger system because I'm more experienced. Even though maybe I didn't get a promotion, right? They're weaning me up, so to speak. Or maybe it's, well, I worked on that internal system last year and it was really just about tightening up our security. And nobody notices security until what? Something goes bad, right? And a lot of times it's like, it's silly because it's a lower level on the priority list for a lot of companies than it should be. Because if a problem occurs, it's really bad repercussions. But what are most companies focusing on? What are stuff that's going to generate top line revenue? So maybe you're working on something that's more forward thinking, more top line revenue generating, more customer service facing, more something like that. Well, that project might have a bigger impact. And even though they're still only paying you $100,000, you're now increasing, and you're working on something where the value is higher as far as something that's easier for them to see. Okay, it could be that. Or it could be, I'm just picking up, it's not necessarily a new project, but I had an example, a woman who was in my job search coaching program and in the leadership coaching program. And she got a job through the boot camp. I did some coaching with her. And then a year later, we got together again and we did a coaching session on her value plan because over the course of the year, they didn't change her salary. But what ended up happening was they hired her to be like the managing director. I forget what the title was, account management director, something, of the central region of this software as a services company. And what had transpired over the course of the year was that the East region person and the West region person either got fired, reallocated, or basically moved, and she had inherited the entire United States. So she was trying to build out the central region, but then all of a sudden she was inheriting resources in both the side regions. And then, she's managing larger accounts. She's generating the business. And then she had to set up infrastructure processes to better manage the consulting resources and all these other things. And so all of these, no title change, no nothing, right? And now it's review time. So we had to start listing. I was asking her, okay, well, how many resources? What's the revenue in that region? What's the revenue in that region? What did you go? You went from a book of business of 0 to whatever, and then there was somebody else in the central region, you inherited that person's stuff. Okay, and then you built processes to what? Streamline all the new sales or account management of, and all the account planning for, and all the utilization of the resources that was easier to whatever. Right? All of that stuff. Well, all that comes into play. Or it could, right? Next year, I did all that already. I did some of it already. And I want to be rewarded. And now going forward, let's take a new look at what I'm handling and what I need to do. Or maybe it was, she had to now work on the processes. She just kept inheriting stuff. So it was a little fly by the seat of their pants. But now she was being tasked with putting in the methods and the practices. So that's what I'm talking about here, to actually look forward to see what that's going to mean. And then when you're looking forward, and any of you that are transitioning jobs or getting a new role within or getting a promotion, when you look forward and you're going to make a case for your salary or your pay raise or whatever it is, don't just look at, if you need to, don't just look at the impact of what's going to happen over the next 12 months. This is what I like to call, I want you to massage stuff for your benefit, right? So when I give you a pay raise, it's about what you're about to do. When I give you a bonus, it's for what you already did, all right? So I'm not paying you more salary for what you did last year. I'm paying you a bonus to square up. And what you're arguing when you go to negotiate your pay raise, and this is in the pay raise lesson, so I don't want to go too far into this, but you're arguing for what the value is that you're going to create in the future. And the mistake most people make is they limit that to the next 12 months or whenever their review period is. But I want you to think in terms of, I'm going to create something next year that's going to live for how long? Go total aggregated benefit, not 12-month benefit. Tracking on that? Cool? Okay, that's number 2. Questions on that? Guys awake? Good one. Geraldine liked that. How are you, Geraldine? All right. Oh, Jason, how are you, buddy? Haven't seen you in a while. In charge of originating. Oh, is that Kara? Was that the only? Yeah. In charge of originating and developing investment products to expand offerings on a platform. I understand documenting the journey using the framework to get to launch. Problem for me is 95% of the work gets done and management pulls the funding before the launch. Curious how you would approach storytelling about this. So if I'm, and now keep in mind, I would be making this argument to my current employer. Did you do something that even though it didn't get launched or maybe it didn't work as well as you thought, it's, when I got this blank sheet of paper, it's really hard to go from 0 to 1, right? It's really hard to build it, right? It's really hard for me to write the first page of the book, right? But you can't edit a blank page, so to speak. So is there value? Let's say I wrote the page and I didn't like the prose and I scrapped a lot of it. There's still value in having a structure down that I could work with. Is there any redeeming value from the work you put in? Did you create a process that now, oh, wait, hang on, I don't have to think through the process? And it could be, well, we have a general outline, right? But now I have a general outline for these type of customers, these types of industries, these types of companies, these types of individuals, or whatever. So I'm all about what value did I get out of doing what I did? The outcome that might have been something that was in management's control and not yours I would want to know what that value is. The argument would be, well, we would have, you don't want to get into this one. Well, we would have launched it if you'd have made a more compelling argument for the value of that. Now, the business case just might not have been there, or you didn't make it compelling enough. It was there to be had, but you botched up kind of the business case, meaning it was there. The raw data supported whatever the initiative was, but you didn't collect it and frame it properly. So it's hard to say, but I would go back to redeeming value. All right, let me go on to number 3. This is kind of my favorite of the 5. I mean, they're all important, every single one of them. But this is kind of my favorite because, you ever break up with somebody and then they, or they dumped you and they just missed you so much kind of thing. It's kind of one of those. All right, replacement cost. I can't get over the few people that do this. What's the market demand, the overall assessment for your skills? I'm not talking about ROI this or ROI. I'm talking about you in your current state, meaning I have you've been working with me a year or 10 or whatever. Think about how little, if any, time is spent actually assessing what it would take in terms of impact to replace you. All right, so here's how I look at these. I think I got 8. I think I went with 8. I scratched a few. I want you to think about, no, hold on, we're not talking about you're threatening to leave. You're trying to give somebody perspective, okay? This is about perspective. How you say what you say is just as important as what you say. This is about opening their eyes. So, first thing, do you have a unique or rare skill set? So now unique and rare could mean there ain't anybody out there that has it. There ain't anybody in the company that has it. There isn't anybody on the team that has it, kind of thing. So maybe what you do is very, very rare. And if that's the case, now, just because you have a rare skill doesn't mean somebody needs to buy it. Right? Kind of thing. So I want you to think about that. Is there a rarity to your skill? Is there just more market demand? Meaning, I have skills, and a lot of people have those skills, but the market is calling and lifting everybody's pay because this is a hot thing. People need these resources, and a lot of companies need them, and there just aren't enough, even though there's a lot of me. Even though there's a lot of people that have that skill, there still isn't enough, right? So this is something that you want to think about. And then you want to look at adjustment for past demand. So based on what I've done over the years, has I've been here and I've been doing this job, and my pay raise is going like this kind of thing, right? My pay raise is going like this. But in the market, the pay has gone like this over the 5 years that I've been here, kind of thing. So do you need to take a look at what the trend is in the market, but how has yours over the course of the years, is it moving in lockstep? And it's very rare that occurs, because most of the time, I don't think that they mean to do this, but just organizations are not constantly reassessing if they are not hiring at a high velocity. So if I'm needing to hire a lot of people, I'm getting a sense of what the market is actually calling for me to pay for a new employee. Now, they may or may not be adjusting you. So you need to make sure that you're looking back and talking about the contributions you've made, but think about, has my salary moved in tandem with this? And then I would go out and I would get external data. Like, I actually would try to get any data I can to prove my position, but I would try to be as objective about it as possible. And then think about the loss of continuity. If I plucked me out of here, what would happen in the overall continuity of work that gets created? Is there something where something won't be created? It just, you're going to cut a corner. There's a loss of the continuum. Or is there going to be a period of time in which work will not get done? What will that cost you? So it's not just about my replacement cost. But if I don't make the 10 widgets a day, then what happens is you're not going to have those 10 widgets a day until you not only hire somebody, but that person gets up to speed. Okay, meaning to my level of proficiency. What's that gap going to be? Just, by the way, I'm not talking like, you need to down to the dot and punch the calculator. I'm just like, try to get an assessment. Are we talking a month? Are we talking 2 months? How long did it take you to get up to speed when you moved over? What were the conditions under which you were learning? What experiences did you have when you started? Did you have a runway in the company and then moved over? Right? So you want to think about that. And then, again, going back to the specifics of your replacement, what kind of learning curve would there be? So how long of a gap would it be in order for somebody that you got on the outside, even if they had the same credentials that I have? If you were lucky enough to find somebody and they walked in with the same credentials, they still don't have that. And there's some other things that they don't have that I saved for a few items later. But think about what the learning curve cost would be, right? I'm going to have to pay to train that person to be able to get her up to speed to 10 widgets a day or whatever it is. And then the recruitment cost. And I'm not talking like I got to pay a headhunter a fee. That could be the case. But no matter what happens, once I'm not here, in order for you to continue operations, somebody's going to have to go and recruit somebody. And if they steal them from somewhere else in the organization, that's fine. Then that position needs to be backfilled. It doesn't matter. I'm pulling resources, whether that's the recruiter and HR person, you're taking their time, you're taking up the hiring official or any teammates' times to interview people. That costs time and money, right? Kind of thing. So when you think about and you break these things down, and by the way, you could look at all 8 of them. You can meld or blend a couple together. Just try to get an idea of what that impact is. And you should do this every year. I'm not even going to ask for a show of hands of how many people do this every year, because I know it's going to be negligible. But this is something that you should know. And I don't want you to think I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth here. You've probably heard me say this a lot, and I genuinely mean this. There is no such thing as market pay. Okay, your salary is determined on a particular day when you take a new job and an employer says, we think you're worth $100,000 right now, or we're willing to pay $100,000 because we're so in pain that even though I think you're worth 70, I'm paying you 100. Like, you just never know. Or, I'm only paying 60 because we really don't need you, or you're not that great. Whatever it is, you will never know. But I'm saying, try to get some kind of idea to make some plausible argument. And even if you don't know what the market pay is, or if you can get some representative data points, it's still going to cost all those other things, right? Kind of thing. Okay, so this is really, really important. But I have a word of caution, so much so that I even wrote a card out for this. Remember this, though, when it comes to your cost. And I remember this when it comes to my credentials as a career and leadership coach. Okay, and I'll give you an example, but I'll give you some examples. Features that you have and credentials that you have do not necessarily correlate to value you create. So I want when I talked about this, where it was that you have a unique skill set and you're rare, okay? I would like to think, and even if you don't think this, just go with me for the analogy. I would like to think that I'm a rare career coach. Okay, what makes me rare? Decades of experience, practical experience, lessons learned, methodologies built. Okay, books I've published, a blog that's been a perennial top charter, a podcast, this, that, and the other thing. Right, all those things add up. Those are credentials, right? Or I might have is somebody? Is somebody a certified resume writer, as if that's even a thing, right? Anybody can have a certificate of anything, right? That's a credential. Okay. And if I'm making an argument that my credentials mean I'm more valuable to you, you might say, well, Andy, that's okay. You could have all the books you want, but if I need to elevate my performance in my job, or I need to find a new job, or I need to do this and that, I don't know that those credentials are really going are worth me paying an extra $5,000 for you if I could pay $5,000 less to this other person who doesn't have those credentials, but I think can get me close. So if you're saying, well, I have my PMP, I have my MBA, I have my this or that, just be careful that you're not pointing to things that are generally irrelevant in the eye of the person you're speaking to for their projected value of what those skills are able to get you to do. Right? I don't think, when I look at a project manager, I don't think if they have a PMP, I should pay them more. Right? Do you understand? Do you understand? Sorry, what I mean by this? So I want you to make sure that if you're going to make your case, you're making your case based on things they value and things that have proven to correlate to your future performance because they've correlated to your past performance. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, so I'm sure that's clear as mud, but that's okay because that's what we got to chat for. You can ask me questions. Kara, remind me of this one. Is it Navrajiv? Let me answer that. At the end in the general Q&A. Okay. Another thing. Remember this your entire life. Whenever you refer somebody, trust is not transferable. Period. Hard stop. Okay. It just ain't. Okay. It's built that you built it internally, or you built it in the market. Maybe it carries with you into a new job, into a new division, into a new whatever. Okay. Internal and external. So the trust that is built by your presence and your track record of delivery, the internal stakeholders or the relationships you establish with business partners, customers, right? I got a guy who manages my money, and I have an investment guy, and I have a dedicated banker. That dedicated banker changes every single year. The investment guy's been the same guy for 10 years. And if that investment guy leaves, right, I'm apt to leave, kind of thing. Okay, so that's an external relationship. But internally, you may have people who rely on you, who trust you. And the minute that there's a void of you, I'm not as confident about what I'm going to get, when I'm going to get it, or whatever, right? So I want you to think about all the relationships you built and how you're viewed. And this, I'm talking in this case in terms of trust of internal customers or external relationships. You may have, if you hold an event and you're inviting customers and they're coming because they want to see you speak, but now you're not there and you're not going to speak anymore, is that going to have, damaging effect? Or you got the steering committee, they're not feeling really comfortable or don't want to kick in more money until the project manager that you're replacing the person with has proven herself or himself. So this is a big deal. Trust is not transferable. And the fifth one is influence. And this might be a little harder to quantify, but you could certainly make the case, the high tide that lifts all boats. So is your team operating at a different level because you're the conductor kind of thing? Are your teammates operating at a different level, or is your team operating at a different level because you're there? So I've got some people who are doing 80% of their job, but you're able to pick up the extra 20 because you're super fast or you're super helpful. All of those things matter. So the influence that you have, especially if you're a managerial resource, the influence goes up as well, not just to the staff, but it also goes to your ability to make your boss look good or any of the other people on the management team look good. So this influence is, are you elevating the performance of people that surround you? Right? Your influence could be that you're able to sell internal projects to the customers because you have made better arguments. That's part of being influential. So it's not just like raising the performance of your teammates. It could be also the ability to convince somebody they need to spend money, right, to do certain things. So this is a big deal as well. So to kind of recap these really quickly, we want to make sure that, let me peel these out, just a quick recap. Verse 4 and 5, here we go. 2, 3, 4. I probably should have done that. Where's number 3? Well, you all, because I know you were paying such good attention to these cards as much as I just had too many cards. I thought I had too many good things. There we go. Okay. So, just real quick, the past. You use the Career Achievements Journal / that list of 14 things, kind of collect everything that happened on your projects. What impact did it have? I have to take a gander at the future projected benefits. There's different ways to look at that based on any delta that's going to occur. Even if your responsibilities don't change, you still should have delta. Every year over year, you should have delta. What happens if you're not there? What does that mean? Time, money, all that trust to and that other stuff that was kind of number 4 and 5. The brand you've earned, right? Trust is not transferable. And the influence you have in the performance and how it affects those around you. If you can in some way, shape, or form aggregate these 5 things and build yourself your own little diary of whatever you need, however you want to capture it. It's sitting over there. I have a Mile Walk Academy book. I do this for every single thing we do. Kara and I look at stats. We note trends. We talk about what the weather was like out, what day of the week it was, what month of the year it was, what market conditions, what happened, why did this happen, why did these people react this way? Do you notice the change in our customer? You look at all this stuff, and it's really, really helpful to get a breakdown of that. And even if you did it only for yourself, I still think there's value in there in raising your confidence in yourself and feeling good about the contributions you're making. But we want to use it. We want to use it appropriately to make our case to our employers about our value and what we're worth. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that.